The fallen warrior, the alien warrior, lay broken on the cold metal floor of the medical bay. Her blue-scaled skin had lost its natural shine, and dark purple blood seeped from multiple wounds across her body. The battle had been fierce, and she had fought until her very last breath of strength. Her name was Kira, and she belonged to a proud warrior race called the Valari. For centuries, her people had been known across the galaxy as the finest fighters. They were tall, strong, and their scales could turn away most weapons. But today, none of that mattered. Today she was dying. The human medical ship had found her floating in space inside a damaged escape pod. Her own people had left her behind, thinking she was already dead. In Valari culture, warriors who could not fight anymore were considered lost. There was no place for the weak or broken among them. Dr. Alex Kane was the chief medical officer on the human vessel called Hope's Light. He had been working in space medicine for 12 years, but he had never seen injuries this severe on any living being. The alien's body was a mess of broken bones, torn muscles, and internal bleeding. "Sir, should we even try?" asked Nurse Beth, looking at the readings on her scanner. "Her vital signs are almost gone. Maybe it would be kinder to let her go in peace." Alex studied the alien warrior carefully. Her breathing was shallow, and her heart was barely beating. Most doctors would have agreed with Beth, but Alex saw something else in the alien's face. Even unconscious, there was a stubborn set to her jaw. This being was a fighter. "No," Alex said firmly. "We don't give up on anyone aboard this ship. Prep the surgical bay. We're going to save her." The other medical staff exchanged worried glances. They had never attempted surgery on a Valari before. Their anatomy was different from humans, and one wrong move could kill her instantly. For the next 8 hours, Alex worked without stopping. He carefully repaired torn blood vessels, set broken bones, and removed damaged tissue. The alien's body was strong, much stronger than a human's, but it had been pushed far beyond its limits. Halfway through the surgery, something unexpected happened. The alien's eyes opened slightly, glowing with a soft golden light. She looked directly at Alex, and for a moment he felt like she was seeing deep into his soul. "Why?" she whispered. In Broken Galactic Standard, the common language used between different species. "Why help me?" Alex paused in his work. "Because every life has value," he said simply. "Your people might have given up on you, but we haven't." Tears formed in the alien's golden eyes. In her entire life, no one had ever said such words to her. Among the Valari, worth was measured only by strength and fighting ability. The concept of helping someone who could no longer fight was completely foreign to her. "My name is Kira," she said softly. I was a commander in the Valari fleet." "Was?" Alex asked, continuing his delicate work on her internal organs. "No more," Kira replied, her voice filled with pain that had nothing to do with her physical injuries. "Cannot fight, cannot lead, cannot be Valari anymore." Alex stopped working and looked at her seriously. "Listen to me, Kira. You are still you, no matter what happened to your body. Being strong isn't just about fighting. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is keep living when everything seems hopeless." Kira closed her eyes, trying to understand these strange human concepts. Her people had always taught that a warrior's worth ended when their fighting days were over. But this human doctor seemed to believe something completely different. The surgery continued for several more hours. Alex and his team worked with incredible precision, using every bit of medical knowledge they had. Slowly, Kira's vital signs began to improve. Her breathing became stronger, and her heart started beating with a steadier rhythm. When the surgery was finally complete, Alex was exhausted. He had never worked so hard to save a single patient. But as he looked at Kira's peaceful face, he felt that it had been worth every minute. "Will she recover?" Beth asked quietly. Alex nodded slowly. her body will heal. But I think the real challenge will be helping her heal inside. She's lost everything that defined who she was. We need to help her find a new reason to live. As the medical team cleaned up and Kira slept deeply under the effects of medication, Alex made a decision. He would not just heal this alien warrior's body. He would help her discover that there was more to life than fighting, and that sometimes the greatest strength came from choosing compassion over conflict. The long journey of healing was about to begin. Learning to walk again. 3 weeks had passed since Kira's surgery. Her body was healing faster than Alex had expected, but her spirit remained broken. She spent most of her time staring out the window of her medical room, watching the stars pass by. "Good morning, Kira," Alex said as he entered her room for the daily checkup. "How are you feeling today?" Kira turned her head slowly. The golden glow in her eyes had dimmed considerably. "Empty," she replied honestly, "like a shell with nothing inside." Alex sat down in the chair beside her bed. He had been thinking about this conversation for days. "Tell me about your life before the battle. What did you enjoy besides fighting?" Kira looked confused by the question. "Enjoy? I do not understand this word in this context. Warriors do not enjoy. We serve. We fight. We protect. But what about when you weren't fighting? What did you do during peaceful times?" "There were no peaceful times," Kira said quietly. "The Valeria are always preparing for the next battle. We train, we plan, we ready ourselves for war. That is our way." Alex felt a deep sadness for this alien woman. Her entire culture had been built around conflict, leaving no room for joy, creativity, or simple happiness. "Would you like to try walking today? Your legs have healed enough." Kira shook her head. "What is the point? I will never fight again. My legs were made for battle, not for whatever this is." "Walking isn't just for fighting," Alex said gently. "Come on, let me show you something." With great reluctance, Kira allowed Alex to help her stand. Her legs were shaky at first, but her natural Valari strength was returning. Slowly, they walked through the corridors of the medical ship. Alex led her to a large observation deck where several crew members were gathered. They weren't working or preparing for battle. Instead, they were simply talking, laughing, and enjoying each other's company. Some were playing a card game. Others were sharing stories. "What are they doing?" Kira asked, genuinely puzzled. "They're being human," Alex replied. "They're finding joy in simple moments, building friendships, creating bonds that have nothing to do with fighting or survival." Kira watched the humans with fascination. One crew member, a young woman named Lisa, was showing pictures of her family back on Earth. Others gathered around, asking questions and sharing their own stories. There was warmth in their voices, something Kira had never experienced among her own people. "Dr. Kane," Lisa called out when she noticed them. "Come join us. I was just telling everyone about my daughter's first steps." Alex guided Kira over to the group. The humans welcomed her without hesitation, despite her alien appearance and the fact that she couldn't contribute much to the conversation. They included her naturally, asking gentle questions about her recovery and making sure she felt comfortable. For the first time in her life, Kira experienced something she didn't have a word for. Later, Alex would tell her it was called belonging. As the days passed, Alex introduced Kira to more human concepts. He showed her art created by crew members, paintings, music, poetry. Things made not for war or survival, but simply for the joy of creation. "Why do they make these things?" Kira asked, looking at a painting of Earth's sunset that hung in the recreation room. "Because it makes them happy," Alex explained. "Because beauty is important. Because creating something brings meaning to life beyond just surviving." Kira touched the painting gently. The colors were warm and peaceful, nothing like the cold military equipment she had known all her life. "I have never seen anything like this," she whispered. "Would you like to try making something?" Alex asked. Kira's eyes widened with surprise. "I do not know how. Valerie do not." "Create. Everyone can create," Alex said with a smile. "It's one of the things that makes life worth living." That evening, Alex brought Kira some basic art supplies. Her first attempts were clumsy, her hands more used to holding weapons than brushes. But slowly, something began to emerge on the canvas. It wasn't beautiful by human standards, but it was hers. As she worked, Kira felt something stirring inside her chest. It was small, fragile, but it was there. Hope. For the first time since her injury, she began to believe that maybe, just maybe, there was a reason to keep living. "Thank you," she said quietly to Alex as he checked on her progress. "For what?" "For showing me that there is more to existence than war," Kira replied, her golden eyes beginning to glow with a soft, new light. "I am starting to understand what humans call purpose." The gift of compassion. 2 months into her recovery, Kira had made remarkable progress. She could walk without assistance, and had even started helping in the medical bay, learning basic first aid from the human crew. Her artistic skills were improving too, and her paintings now decorated her room with splashes of color that would have been impossible in her old military life. But the real test came when the Hope's light received a distress signal from a damaged cargo ship. The vessel was carrying refugees from the war-torn Nexus system, and many were injured. "All medical staff to stations," came the announcement over. "The ship's communication system. Prepare for incoming casualties." Kira watched from her room as Alex and his team rushed to prepare for the emergency. Her warrior instincts told her to help, but she wasn't sure if she was ready or even welcome. In such a critical situation, Alex appeared in her doorway, slightly out of breath. "Kira, I know this is asking a lot, but we could use an extra pair of hands. Are you willing to help?" Without hesitation, Kira nodded. "Tell me what to do." The cargo ship's survivors were brought aboard in waves. Men, women, and children from various alien species, all bearing the wounds of war and displacement. Kira had never seen anything like it. In her old life, civilian casualties were just numbers in military reports. "Kira, I need you to help with the Zentari family in Bay 3, Alex called out. "The mother has a broken arm, and the children are scared." Kira approached the family carefully. The Zentari were a peaceful species, small and fragile compared to the Valari. The mother, despite her injury, was trying to comfort her 2 young children who were crying from fear and confusion at first. The family was terrified of Kira. Her Valari appearance meant war to most species in the galaxy. But as Kira knelt down to their level and spoke softly, something changed. "I will not hurt you," Kira said gently, her voice barely above a whisper. "I am here to help." She carefully examined the mother's arm, using the techniques Alex had taught her. The bone was fractured, but not severely. As she worked to stabilize the injury, she found herself talking to the children, trying to distract them from their fear. "Where I come from, we have legends about brave little ones like you," Kira said as she carefully wrapped the mother's arm. "They say that the smallest beings often have the biggest hearts." The youngest child, no more than 5 Earth years old, stopped crying and looked at Kira with curious eyes. "Really? Really?" Kira replied with a gentle smile. "And I think you both are very brave for taking care of your mother." As Kira worked with more refugees, she began to understand something profound. Each person she helped was someone's family member, someone's friend, someone who mattered deeply to others. They weren't just casualties or statistics. They were individuals with hopes, fears, dreams, and stories. One elderly refugee, a member of a species Kira didn't recognize, grabbed her hand as she finished treating his wounds. "Thank you, young warrior," he said with gratitude shining in his old eyes. Your kindness will not be forgotten. I am no longer a warrior, Kira replied. Automatically, the old shame returning to her voice. The old being squeezed her hand tighter. Child, you are more of a warrior now than you ever were before. You fight against suffering, against despair, against the darkness that war brings. That is the truest battle of all. Later that evening, after all the refugees had been treated and settled, Kira sat in the observation deck, feeling emotionally exhausted, but strangely fulfilled. Alex found her there, looking out at the stars. You did incredible work today, Alex said, sitting beside her. How do you feel? Kira was quiet for a long moment. Different, she finally said. For my entire life, I was taught that strength meant causing pain to others. Today, I learned that real strength comes from taking pain away. The Valari trained you to be a destroyer, Alex observed. But you chose to become a healer. Is that what I am now? Kira asked, turning to look at him. A healer? If that's what you want to be, Alex replied. The choice is yours, Kira. You get to decide who you become. Kira looked at her hands, the same hands that had once held weapons of war. Today, they had comforted children, mended wounds, and brought hope to the desperate. I want to learn more, she said firmly. I want to become someone who saves lives instead of taking them. Alex smiled. Then we'll start your formal medical training tomorrow. For the first time since her injury, Kira felt truly excited about the future. She was discovering that healing others was also healing herself. The student becomes the teacher 6. Months had passed since Kira's rescue. She had thrown herself into medical training with the same intensity she had once applied to warfare. Her natural Valari strength and quick reflexes, once used for destruction, now served her well in the medical bay, where quick thinking and steady hands could mean the difference between life and death. The Hopes. Light had become her new home, and the crew had become her family. But Kira knew this peaceful time couldn't last forever. The war was spreading across the galaxy, and eventually, difficult choices would have to be made. That day came when they received an emergency transmission from a Valari battle cruiser. The message was brief and desperate. Heavy casualties, requesting immediate medical assistance. The entire medical bay fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. Kira would have to face her own people for the first time since her rescue. You don't have to do this, Alex said quietly to Kira. I can handle the medical response myself. Kira looked at her mentor and friend. The golden glow in her eyes had grown stronger over the months, but now it flickered with uncertainty. They are my people, she said finally. They are hurt. I cannot turn away. The Valari battle cruiser was massive, built for war and intimidation. As Kira and the medical team boarded, she felt the familiar weight of military discipline in the air. The corridors were filled with wounded warriors, their blue scales dulled by pain and exhaustion. But it was the reaction of the Valari crew that struck Kira most deeply. When they saw her, their expressions changed from hope to confusion to something that looked like disgust. Kira of the Broken Scale, said Commander Vex, the ship's leader. His voice carried the formal tone reserved for those who had brought shame to their people. You live still. I live, and I have come to help, Kira replied, standing straight despite the hostility in the air. Help? Vex's voice dripped with disdain. You are no longer Valari. You work with the soft humans now. You have forgotten the warrior's way. Kira felt the old shame trying to creep back into her heart, but she fought it back. I have not forgotten who I am. I have learned who I can become. The wounded Valari warriors looked at her with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. Some recognized her from her days as a commander, but none seemed happy to see her alive. Begin treating the wounded, Alex said quietly to his team. Kira, you're with me. As they moved through the ship, Kira found herself face to face with warriors she had once served alongside. Their injuries were severe, but their pride was wounded even more deeply. They had been defeated in battle, something that went against everything the Valeri believed about themselves. "I would rather die than be healed by a broken one," spat one young warrior as Kira approached to treat his wounds. Kira paused, her medical supplies in hand. The old Kira would have been devastated by such words. But the new Kira, the one who had learned about compassion and purpose, responded differently. "Your pride will not stop the bleeding," she said calmly. "But my skills can." Without waiting for permission, she began treating his wounds. The young warrior tried to resist, but his injuries were too severe. As Kira worked, she spoke softly. "I was like you once. I believed that strength came only from victory in battle. But I learned something during my time with the humans. True strength comes from choosing to live, to grow, to help others, even when it's difficult." The young warrior listened despite himself. As Kira continued her work, other wounded Valeri began to gather around, drawn by her calm confidence and skilled hands. "You speak like the soft ones," one of them said, but there was less hostility in his voice. "I speak like someone who has learned that there is more than one way to be strong," Kira replied. "Look around you. This ship is full of the finest warriors in the galaxy, yet you are all broken and defeated. The human way of thinking, the way of compassion and cooperation, has kept their ship safe and their people whole." As the hours passed, something remarkable happened. The wounded Valeri began to open up to Kira, asking questions about her time with the humans, about the medical techniques she was using, about the strange concept of healing instead of fighting. Commander Vex watched from a distance, his expression thoughtful. Finally, he approached Kira as she finished treating the last of the wounded. "Your hands are skilled," he admitted grudgingly. "But this is not the Valeri way." "Perhaps it is time for a new way," Kira replied, meeting his gaze steadily. "Perhaps it is time for the Valeri to learn that there is honor in healing as well as in fighting." The commander was silent for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he nodded slowly. "You may be right, Kira of the healing hands. Maybe it is time for our people to learn from yours." The bridge between worlds 1 year after her rescue. Kira stood in the communication center of the Hope's Light, preparing to make a transmission that would change her life forever. She had been invited to speak at the Galactic Council, a gathering of all the major species in the galaxy. The topic, the possibility of peace through understanding. Alex stood beside her, offering silent support. Over the past months, word had spread about the Valeri warrior who had learned to heal. Her story had reached every corner of the galaxy, inspiring some and troubling others. "Are you ready?" Alex asked gently. Kira nodded, though her hands trembled slightly. "I have spent my entire life being told what the Valeri way is. Today, I speak for a new way." The transmission began, and Kira found herself facing representatives from dozens of species. Some looked at her with curiosity, others with suspicion. The Valeri delegation sat in stern silence, their faces showing no emotion. "Honored members of the council," Kira began, her voice steady despite her nervousness. "I stand before you today not as the warrior I once was, but as the healer I have chosen to become." She told her story simply and honestly. She spoke about her injuries, her rescue by the humans, and the difficult journey of learning to see strength in gentleness and power in compassion. As she talked, she could see some delegates leaning forward, genuinely interested in her words. "The humans taught me something that my own people could not," Kira continued. "They taught me that our greatest strength comes not from our ability to destroy, but from our willingness to preserve, to protect, to heal." The Valeri delegate, an old general named Kor, stood up abruptly. This being no longer speaks for the Valari, he declared. She has been corrupted by alien ideas. Her words carry no weight. Kira looked directly at General Kor, the warrior who had once been her mentor. I speak for the wounded Valerion commander. Vex's ship, who asked me to teach them about healing. I speak for the young warriors who wrote to me asking about the human concepts of mercy and cooperation. I speak for all Valari who are tired of endless war and want to find a better way. A murmur ran through the council chamber. This was news. To many of the delegates, including General Kor, whose face showed surprise and concern. The galaxy is broken, Kira continued, her voice growing stronger. We have been fighting each other for so long that we have forgotten why we started. The humans showed me that it is possible to be strong without being cruel, to be brave without being aggressive, to be proud without being destructive. She gestured to Alex, who stepped forward. Dr. Alex Kane could have let me die. His people had no obligation to save a Valari warrior, but he chose compassion over indifference. He chose to see me as a being worthy of life, not as an enemy to be abandoned. What do you propose? Asked the delegate from the Zentari, the same species Kira had helped during her first emergency response. I propose that we learn from each other, Kira replied. The Valari have strength and courage. The humans have compassion and innovation. The Zentari have wisdom and patience. Every species here has something valuable to offer. Instead of using our differences to fuel conflict, we can use them to build something better. The council chamber fell silent. It was a radical idea, this concept of cooperation over competition, of healing over harming. General Kor spoke again, his voice softer than before. And what of honor? What of the warrior's code? Kira smiled, the golden glow in her eyes now bright and steady. There is no greater honor than saving a life. There is no more challenging battle than the fight against suffering and despair. The warrior's code is not about destruction, General. It is about protection. And sometimes the best way to protect is to heal. Over the following weeks, something unprecedented happened. Species that had been enemies for centuries began to talk. The Valari started training some of their warriors in medical techniques. The humans shared their technology freely. Other species opened their borders for the first time in generations. But it wasn't perfect, and it wasn't immediate. There were still conflicts, still those who preferred the old ways of war and suspicion. But change had begun. Kira found herself at the center of it all, serving as a bridge between her warrior heritage and her healer's calling. She established the first interspecies medical academy, where beings from all over the galaxy could learn to heal rather than harm. As she stood in her new office, looking out at students from dozens of different worlds working together, Alex joined her. Any regrets? He asked with a smile. Kira touched the scar on her chest, where her most serious injury had been. Only one, she said. I regret that it took me so long to learn that the greatest strength comes from helping others find theirs. She had been broken in body and spirit, abandoned by her own people and left to die. But in the hands of a human medic who believed every life had value, she had found not just healing, but purpose. And in finding her purpose, she had helped heal a galaxy. Asterisk.